will.
I don't agree. No, I don't agree.
Okay, so for example, human body, does it demonstrate the working of an intelligence who has put certain laws and parameters for the human body to function, survive and thrive?
No, but I have to go back to the coffee. You said it won't happen. There needs to be a will that something's happening, right? And I said there needs to be will and energy. Like
without energy, you can't do any work.
Yeah. But it's a will alone is just not enough. You need energy. You need
Of course. That's why it's a given thing. That thing must possess energy to do anything. So if the thing existed, as we say, must exist, and doesn't have a will, nothing would proceed with all this complexity and harmony and precision. There shouldn't be any laws called constants, which are accurate to 22 decimal places or even more. What I'm simply saying, human body as an example, now you will see all these things all over me. I mean, don't worry about it. Let's just focus on the conversation. If you think about it, when we have a cut in our hand, sometimes you feel pain, something you not, depending on how fine the cut is. If you have a paper cut, you realize much later because it's a very fine cut. The nerve ending that's been cut with, with a very precision. But if you have a wound, you can immediately feel the pain and you will retract it until bleeding. And as it bleeds, you're not going to tell your body, fibrin, start forming a mesh, platelets. These are components within your blood system, circulatory system, that will come and form a clot eventually. But you don't tell it that. You don't even know if you didn't study science. Yeah? No, if you don't know. But this happens because of already a program built in within your system. That program is not.
Everything is coded here.
Yeah, that code.
Right now my heart beats, but I don't have to tell
Exactly. But that code, it is not really sensible to believe it just spontaneously happened and occurred.
Of course, it's millions and millions. The development of the human race is the
give millions and millions of years. You can't get a
selection,
rock becoming alive and talking. It's not going to happen.
Actually, the materiality becomes a live thing, and it's
Our belief is matter became alive. The whole studies of abiogenesis is not a proven science. Theories abound so much, but if you were to think deeply how matter can become live and the processes involved, it is not going to happen. You can't repeat that in any lab, because we tried repeating,
Actually, I think they can. Actually, and this is like
Can you name me a peer-reviewed journal where we have made from base ingredients of chemicals, made amino acids, and then made from them peptides and polypeptides and proteins, and then from them we make.
Like in a week, it can't just.
No.
It takes billions.
It's not millions and billions of years. This is not a billions process. What you need is a program in which the amino acids come together. Eventually, they make proteins, and proteins then code together to make other things, and you have a living system. That doesn't happen in our labs. We can't do that. Why? Amino acids by themselves? No, not because of that. Not because of that. Because amino acids in solutions are very unstable. They can't form a protein and then remains a protein.
What's your point about it? Because I think the natural selection law, like Darwin one, is pretty true. Like
no,
the human
doesn't work. Natural selection is a fantastic idea, but it is not true. Why it's not true? If I start flapping my wings, do you think in few million years I'm going to grow wings?
That's Islamarchism. It's not Darwinism.
Wait.
That's the contrary thing.
So what is Darwinism?
Darwinism is like the adaptation to the environment and through the mutations of the DNA.
Is mutation willing or mutation which is
completely spontaneous and aleatory?
Right. So most mutations are harmful, as you all understand.
It's like
it depends on the environment.
In every living being.
Have you heard of this irreducible complexity concept in biochemistry? Irreducible complexity, where imagine like a mousetrap. This mousetrap is a component. They are fitted together in a way when a mouse comes and it catches it.
You are getting out of space.
Individual,
Don't worry.
individual components together, they can't come in and make this final product. So there are things which are irreducibly complex. One of the biochemists known as Michael Behe, who's a creationist, but that's not his fault that he's not a scientist because he's a creationist in his theology, but he's a biochemist. He wrote a book called Irreducible Complexity, and if you read the examples he's given, the bacterial flagella and things like this, you cannot just explain them with the natural process of spontaneity and mutation to bring something like this. It doesn't happen.
No, but every living thing has a random chance of mutation. For example, like some people grow another finger and that. And with the natural selection, the goal is if that guy with the little, with one more finger has an advantage, he will survive. Or is a little bit faster, then he will survive. Then he will pass his genes with the 6 or whatever fingers, pass it. And so it will, so living beings will mutate and adapt to their situation.
Have you heard of coelacanth? A fish called coelacanth.
No.
Millions of years old. Still the same. Doesn't need to change, didn't change. Bacteria. They are probably the most successful species.
Do they
need to?
adapt all the time.
But do they need to evolve into a human? They don't need to. So this kind of belief that because of benefit,
involves in a human.
yeah, because of benefit things then evolve. No, there's a limit to how much you can change. There's a limit. Aren't we doing studies and crossbreeding with dogs?
No, it doesn't work. It's
Wait.
DNA. This doesn't match.
Aren't we doing crossbreeding with dogs? With all this crossbreeding, have we made a dog into a zebra? Have we made a dog into an elephant?
But we made a wolf into a chihuahua.
No. Have we made a dog into an elephant by crossbreeding them? It's not going to happen. There is a species barrier. I mean, if you understand evolution, you would know that there is a barrier. You know, the studies with Drosophila, the fly. They did several experiments. The reason why they chose this because the life cycle is very fast, very quick. You can make several offsprings of this Drosophila. And they tried several kind of changes with half a wing, less wing, still a Drosophila. You can't change it into a totally different species. So there is a limit to how much you can change. So what we say, we can adapt because there is a flexibility maybe within our gene pool. But you can't then change human beings into an elephant.
No. Of course
Yeah.
not.
Why can nature do that? Because it's the way the limitation is there within our genetic pool.
It needs
So
time.
the idea that nature, which is blind, doesn't have consciousness. Nature, which does all of this, is not conscious, doesn't have a will. So how can it even direct anything? It's just an explanation of the process. It's nothing.
Random mutations that human being or that animal will have an advantage over others. The other being dies and the other survive and spread.
Look, when you say random mutation, most random mutations is not going to produce something called the active organ which is beneficial. It has to go through several processes and several steps.
Yeah, over time.
Over time. But in the interim, what was the benefit? There was no benefit.
They survive. That's the benefit.
No.
They
When you have,
adapt to their
imagine a species, for example, developing something like a hump here. It has no survival advantage, no benefit.
That's why.
If you think eventually this is going to be another arm which is going to be used, but this species doesn't know, you are assuming there is already a direction, a goal and plan. By
There's
who?
no plan. No, we don't assume.
Yeah, so why would that produce an advantage, a hump in an arm? Which you think eventually is going to be another arm.
No. I mean, I never said
Right,
that.
so when mutation produces this, it produces no advantage.
That's why it
Depends.
doesn't.
If it is not advanced, it's not going to develop more.
Yeah, so then you cannot have another arm forming in the first place. Because to form another arm, it has to do several steps or processes, or eventually it forms another arm.
But it doesn't give an advantage. That's why it won't.
But I'm saying the concept that something's evolved because of mutation produces some benefit and then it passes on to the offspring and they then have another mutation and it develops. This is a scientific myth. This is a dogmatism belief that is being put forward to us to believe because we don't have to believe in a thing which eventually will say is God.
Even though that theory can be limited, I know because that is not there is a lot of research about that. It's not anything new. That what is the source of the change and in what extent is necessary to develop a really change. But I don't think it's justified for God. I mean, it's a limited theory. But the
When you
science
say
can
God,
prove that.
you're automatically trying to debunk or refute
No,
or criticize something which has a baggage. I'm not even saying God. I'm saying this is a thing that exists eternally, an eternal, everlasting thing which is all-powerful because
Anyway.
nothing gave its power.
Returning to the main point, like the problem is, even though that exists,
Yeah.
in which extent, we need that. Like, if the science is able...
Your
the science-
question about
one
need?
moment. If the science is able to fulfill all our needs, and actually it is, since the maybe second industrial revolution, like it's imparable, like the nature is less, more and more discovered, you know, why we need that thing? Why we need about that?
Okay, let me answer
In
that
which
question
extent
first.
we need that?
Let me answer that question in a very general way. The misconception that often people have is when we are developed in our science and technology, we don't need God or organized religion. We don't need this kind of guidance for anything. But this is where we are mistaken. For example,
The problem, I think, because
I want to give you an example.
the only scope where we need some guidance, where we can think about some other thing about more than science, is in the social materiality, but not in nature, because the science has discovered a lot of the nature, and there is not a space for God.
Let me give you a scientific example then.
One moment, but it's on society where we cannot understand things. For instance, crisis and wars and so on is like something is opposing to the human mind, to humankind. So I think the only reason to think about the existence of God is the source, is the social materiality, which is so spontaneous than it's against the human. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like,
But I want to give you an example
justification
which
of
are
God
based
is
on our understanding of science itself.
Okay.
Yeah? And why science fails us to give the guidance that we need. Yeah? So this is a scientific phenomenon that we understand, we realize, but we don't seek guidance from science from it. Or even if we know. Right? Just to quickly wrap this up then, on this particular example. You see, according to science, we understand a lot of hygiene materials and matters of hygiene. Yeah? Hygienes, right? Right angle. Hygiene. We live at the moment here, we are here in Britain, right? Seems to be a very civilized society in science and technology and culture and so on, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay. When men urinate, they urinate usually standing.
Yes.
No. Why? Because most of these public places, or even in toilets, where we are told to, in our culture, in our particular way of living, to urinate standing. And what happens? The ones which are designed only for urine. So you don't sit on them. The urinals, you don't sit on them, do you?
No.
They're designed to urinate.
I mean, you
No, you
can.
can't sit on them.
you really want
They're
to,
not.
you
They're not
can,
like
you know.
commodes. They're not like commodes, right? Sorry to use this very mundane example, but it's important to highlight this point. So when you urinate, when man urinates standing, do you know what happens? The urine spray comes all the back on your body.
I mean, I don't know how you urinate, but it doesn't happen.
No, I don't urinate standing. Okay, I don't. This is already demonstrated by several experiments with UV light, where it can show that urine with a fine spray comes to all your body. Very unhygienic. But it seems to be this is in our NHS hospitals and various bodies and organizations and institutions. This is how men's urinals are designed.
Yeah.
Did we not know that? We do. So contrast this with the teaching of Prophet Muhammed ﷺ in Islam, right? He said, when you urinate, you have to urinate when you're sitting in a place where, so it doesn't come back to you basically. Now, it is very mundane teaching for you. For example, do I need divine guidance to tell me how to actually urinate. But if you think about it, without technological advancements, we still don't know which is the best way to urinate hygienically.
But it's
even
just
today.
laziness. It's
Yeah,
just laziness.
it's not laziness.
It is.
We don't practice it.
But I don't
Yeah.
think there is a problem.
No.
And no one is dying for this.
It's
No
not
one
about
is-
look, it's not about dying. It's about the best way to do things. Very unhygienic this way.
depends.
Okay. I'm going to go even one step further. I
Also,
apologize.
it's-
I apologize.
it's
Look,
it's
I'm going to go further.
took the-
Wait. I apologize. But I'll go show you the Islamic teaching first. Islamic teaching is when we defecate, we clean it, and we should also wash it with water. If there's no water around, of course, you clean it with stones, whatever you have, materials, but we don't just leave it there. Now, think about it. If someone vomits on your hand, and you just wipe the vomit with a tissue, is that clean?
I see where you're going, but it's not the same.
In this country and elsewhere, we, with our technological advancements, we don't usually wash after we go to the toilet with water. There are toilet rolls being used to wipe. It doesn't clean it. So, with our technological advancements, where are we failing? Religion, we said, well, why do we need God? These mundane things or everyday living have been already explained by the prophet of God, the messenger of God, an agent of God who tells you how to live our life. This is just a mundane example. I can tell you about how to run a society, how to run crime and punishment system, and how to have a governance. Even that is included, because do you know what's killing our societies? Usury and interest. Is it best for us?
But
But
It's
I
not.
can go back. I really
It's
have
not.
to go back
But
to the
religion,
this one.
Islam tells us no. God declares, and His messenger declares war on those who use interest.
That,
No
that
interest
is the
whatsoever.
source of the capitalism. Without private interest,
Whatever
there is no
ism-
industry, there is no
Look.
medical things, there is nothing.
No. In Islam, when Islam was implemented, we didn't need to be capitalist or a communist or a socialist, but it thrived. It became
But
the
that's
forefront of civilization.
utopia. It's
Look.
Speak. You don't
I would like to.
interrupt him all
I will.
the time. You
No.
have
No.
to
What
let him-
I will do. I apologize. I would like to tell you, even the Lord of Bath had to go to the Islamic civilization in the Middle Ages and come back and establish one of the universities there. Right? One of the universities. When the Islamic Spain had overground lighting system, underground sewage system, here in Britain, the Queen of England didn't have a bath for a month, maybe. That's how bad it was compared to civilization we're talking about. So when Islam came,
This is any
Do you
scientific.
think they brought it from Saudi Arabia at the back?
when Islam came, it brought about
Do you think
a revolution
they brought the
in
channels
science
and the bath
and
from
technology.
Saudi Arabia to Spain?
He's just a heckler. You can ignore him.
Explain.
When Islam came,
It was
what
something
were
that
the
Spain
Muslims?
was doing it.
One moment. What
It
were the
was
Muslims
Spain.
doing?
Spanish
Do you know
people
what?
were doing it.
Do you know what were the Muslims doing? They were starting afresh. Say, look, what do we know so far? Okay.
So you said the Muslim religion brought better points.
No.
but-
What I'm saying,
but the peace war is sometimes
when
more
you said we
efficient.
don't need religion, we don't need God, what's the need for it? This is partially my focus on when we do have this need understood, look what happens. When Muslims were there, they looked at the reality. What do we know so far? They said, oh, look, there are so much works by the Greeks that we don't know the knowledge they had. They started learning Greek, translated them. The Hindus. So they started assimilating, collecting information, learning, and then they started contributing their own. So one of the reasons why you as a medical student would appreciate both of you, the reasons why in the Middle Ages, here in Europe, the canon of Ibn Sina, the canon of medicine, went through hundreds of years as a textbook, more than 17 editions, is because that was the thing, of knowledge about medicines and instruments for surgery and so on and so forth. They were developing, they were contributing. We have somehow become very lazy. That's why you don't see Islam as it was before.
Actually,
so my point,
Islam forbids science.
that's what I'm
They
refuting and
limit
debunking.
Slow down
No,
the
I am
scientific
debunking this concept. Islam encouraged, because of that, you had the Renaissance in Europe. If it wasn't because of Islam,
Islam
okay.
slow down the scientific
You know what?
developments.
This is one humble
That
request.
burn the library.
Study. Islam never burned the libraries. Libraries of Islam were burnt, and
You burn
those,
yourself.
listen, those, excuse me, no, the Tartars and the Genghis Khans or others, when they invaded Islam, they invaded and they destroyed. Some of the, I mean, look at the irony. Calculus. You study calculus? Did you study calculus in mathematics? How is it possible? Two individuals at the same time, here and there, coming up with the calculus, saying this is how calculus works. When we know the libraries were destroyed, books were in the water, but not all of them destroyed, some of them survives. Some people were very dishonest by taking this knowledge and say, it's my own. Many contributions like this.
You're saying that Leibniz and the other one, I don't know, but Leibniz took the calculus from...
How do you explain two people at the same time coming up with calculus theories at the same time?
It was not exactly at the same time, actually.
You can think. My humble suggestion to you is about the Renosso that happened in Europe. And if it wasn't their contact with Islamic civilization in Spain and Morocco and places like this, would Europe ever come out from the Dark Ages? Remember, Dark Ages was only in Europe, not in the Islamic lands. We were the peak of civilization.
Until you forbid science.
No, who forbids science?
The dark is
You only
Islam.
steal the
No.
science.
Your prophet said
Islam-
science is bad.
Sorry.
You only borrow the science.
Did you hear what my friend said? Islam, if the Prophet said science was bad, which he didn't, you can't find a single quote that he
I
said
don't
so.
know it by heart.
You're
but I
welcome
know
to
they said
research
it's
it
bad.
and find out. And when you find out, as you can see, I come here in the
I
park
remember
quite
one.
often. Now, what you'll realize, Prophet encouraged. He says, it is mandatory, obligatory for every Muslim, male and female, to acquire knowledge. There is also a weak hadith which says, even if it's going to China, seek knowledge from there, right? Even if it's a weak hadith. We don't accept that, but I'm saying obligation of knowledge. Do you know our first guidance from God? Was it belief? It was iqra, read, recite. Yes? And God says in the Quran that He
Read
taught
what?
you by
Read
the
what?
pen. So Islam always
Explain.
They were writing
always
before the
encouraged.
Quran.
Look,
They were
Islam
writing before the Quran.
always encouraged learning. That is why when Islam thrived in the first few centuries, they were naming the stars.
I know.
They were discovering instruments of optics,
The alphabet,
on surgery.
maths.
I'm not saying everything, but they were developing. Why were they developing? Because the Quran says, travel along the land and inside the earth and see how God originated the creation. Travel and see. Don't you see? Don't you reflect? So always an encouragement. In fact, God reprimands us for not reflecting on
Yeah,
the
but
creation
then
of the
they
universe.
changed. They said science is bad.
Those who said so, we oppose them because they're the ones
But they
who
did.
brought demise.
But they
Yes,
did.
I agree with you partially because they became preoccupied with haram and women and wine and away from the teaching of Islam. And that's why Islamic civilization crumbled, one of the reasons. When they stayed away
Because-
from the interest of knowledge that Islam encourages,
Because
and they
radical
became...
Islam forbids science.
No,
That's
that wasn't
why.
radical Islam.
No,
That was
but they
lazy
were-
Islam. They did not encourage the thriving of the society and progression. Rather, they stayed in their harems, haram, and had women and wine, and that's it. They corrupted the people, and the people corrupted them, and the society, Islamic society, crumbled.
Yeah, but the point is that there is no scientific reason to behave as you are saying. Like here, the people is greed, the people is ambitious, the people and so on, and this is the source of the capitalism. And this works because that what you're saying is that the people should behave in one way, but there is not any scientific reason for the people to behave in that way. You know what I mean? So it's like an
When you say
utopia, like
scientific reason to behave, look,
it's like to
science...
say, no, we should live without pollution. We should live with how we are going to do that?
Do you know Islamic teaching on environment?
Yeah, but the problem is, okay, solve that because we don't know another way to produce. We don't know another way to live.
Yes, we do. There are alternatives, which I'm offering now, right? Which the reasons why we have not immersed ourselves in this understanding is because the society that we live in has rewritten the histories of Europe and various other places.
But that is-
For
that is
example,
conspiracy.
if No, it's not conspiracy. Now, no. Let me tell you what you can research yourself. Europe, if you study the history that is taught in schools, the Greek civilization, the Roman civilization, the ancient Chinese civilization, so on, Islamic civilization, how many pages are worth reading, not worth reading, how many pages are actually taught in the books of history of the civilization? And what are they taught? They don't teach. In fact, one way of masking is saying, oh, Avicenna did this, Ibn Rushd, Averroes did this. Do you know what Avicenna was and Averroes was? These were people who were in the Islamic civilization. Ibn Rushd, not Averroes, not Avicenna, Ibn Sina. So when Ibn Sina wrote his Canon of Medicine that went through hundreds of editions as a scientific medical textbook in science,
Which he was persecuted for.
Right, listen. But when people hear, oh, this is Avicenna, oh, so this is what's it called?
That was before.
Why he was persecuted for?
Avicenna. You think, oh, Avicenna looks like a Greek name. We undermined our understanding of the Islamic contribution. So.
The problem is, but your final point, your main point is like, okay,
I'll make my final
we
point.
should behave in some way because it's like it's innate to all the materiality. So like the society is corrupted, and we have to reconduct that society through the learnings of some kind of religion. And what I'm saying to you is how and why is not now, and what is the source of corruption, and is the other thing is better.
Got your question.
We are not being.
Got your question.
It's like
And I will offer the alternatives.
Utopia, like some anarchist utopia or something.
Ah,
like that.
Islam was not a model of utopia. Islam existed, practiced, demonstrated. Islam has a history of demonstrating its practical application.
In Islamic countries, there is not capitalism.
wait,
Is the
wait.
Islamic mode of production?
The framework that you're coming with now is the modern situation of Islam in today's life. What has happened is people have abandoned within Islamic countries, and you don't see the fruits that Islam had
They don't
when it's
follow
implemented.
science.
So when can I make this point? Right.
Been handicapped.
If you look at the alternative, look, Islam says no to usury and interest, right?
But
Now think about it.
And interest, how we can produce?
Okay, think about it.
Where are you going to? Where are you going to work?
Wait,
Where
one second.
you work?
One second.
You work
One-
without greed.
one
You
second.
Work because you want to feel like God.
not?
You
Why
work
not?
as-
Why not?
you-
Why
you
not?
give the people the
Slow down. Let's look at it. What is the best way to live? Should we live in a reality in which people exploit your greed? Or should we live in a society in which...
But the problem is that there is another way.
Wait. The current society, the system, is based on usury and interest, right?
Yeah.
No doubt. It's in Muslim countries too. But what I'm saying, at one point in time, we can demonstrate that this interest-free system was in existence, was practiced, was implemented, and how was the society then? So if I were to show you, look, the people, how they were changed then, we can do the changes again. If only we follow this particular ideological concept. We follow an ideology today, you're saying we can't help it. In a society, you're saying we can't help it. But I'm saying, no, we can. Are you saying rape happens and we just accept it? No, it's bad and we need to find the best solution for it. Do you agree?
What's wrong with interest?
Do you agree? Do you not agree? An ideological solution and a practical solution in which rape can be totally eliminated or even minimalized
Not the analogy
is
to
better.
interest.
Is better
Rape
than
is not the
one
analogy.
which
How you gonna do
that,
that?
better than one
Rape is
which
not the analogy to
than one
interest.
which has saying we just live with it. Would you not go for the best solution?
But this is not the point. It's not the point.
No,
at
the
all.
point is-
What I'm saying, and also, I have to say to you that the ideology doesn't come from the air. Doesn't come from.
No,
like,
it
comes
the
from the
ideology is
people.
the reflection of the
The-
materiality relationship.
The
problem
the
is
teachings. Look, you can have a teaching from a particular individual who gives you and says, yeah, it makes sense, I'm going to adopt it. Just because he's black or white or Spanish or Italian, doesn't matter. A good teaching can be accepted and implemented. We should not be racist or somehow nationalist.
Nobody
Or,
says we should
do you agree? Do you agree with this
We
principle?
agree with it.
Good.
But
If
that's
we agree with this
individual
principle,
people sort
what
of-
we are saying is Islam, even as a solution system, it offers an alternative system of living which we consider to be the alternative,
I
the
think
way of living.
Islam
But if you...
discriminates people, I
No,
think
wait.
discriminates women.
There seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about Islam.
Discriminate
Now,
economy.
Yeah.
there seems to be a lot of
Are you the moderate?
misunderstanding. Look, when you have a system of usury and interest,
You're not.
do you know
You're
why...
not hiring speakers corner.
Can you not heckle, please? Do you know why people give interest?
No, I don't say that.
Imagine now, you're my friend. Well, he's my friend. Okay, we are friends, right? I'm in need of £20,000 and you got millions. Nothing. I need this for a project and I don't have the money. Now, I'm really in need. You, as a friend of mine, will be showing me empathy and sympathy, mercy, friendship, and kindness, and compassion. I can name so many good qualities. You would say, yeah, take it. Now, but what if you said, look, okay, here is the £20,000 and I expect to give me £40,000 in return. Now,
That's an investment.
this will be coming from not looking at that I need something. You are exploiting my vulnerability, abusing me in my... Wait.
Would you rent your home without a rent?
Listen.
Would
you are...
Would you rent
my
your
friend, I know you're a heckler.
without a rent?
Okay, I'm going to ignore him if you don't mind. Now, they are
Would
so
you go-
jealous.
would you go-
When a Muslim
Would you give
speaks,
your home
he's
without
so
a
jealous.
rent? The
Why
interest
do you
is a
heckle?
rent for your money. The interest is a rent for your money. Would you give your flat without a rent?
Thank you. So now, the vulnerability that I had is something that you know. So instead of being kind to me, showing me some sympathy, empathy, compassion, generosity, goodwill, friendship, you became a greedy individual. You want... Wait. I need to finish my point and you understand. Remember what I said before? You have millions of pounds. You can just give £20 to a beggar and it's not going to minimize your wealth at all. Not to anything. It's not going to... That's what I'm framing this framework question. If you are rich like this, nothing. But if having that wealth, like the banks do, and then, listen, my friend. And then you say, I demand extra £20,000 in return, you have just abused me in my vulnerability.
I don't think so.
That is your greed.
Yeah, but
Now, someone like you demand £20,000 more, and you say, Uthman, I just borrowed you some money, just give me exactly £20,000. Who is a better person?
But it's not,
You or her?
But it's not a morality problem.
It is.
No, it's not.
Society without morals is going to go to its doom. Society needs morals.
The morality is
It's a business, man.
Whose moral is better?
Would you buy your product from your shop?
Yours.
without
doesn't have
cost?
any sense.
Because you're not showing the greed. You're not abusing me.
That's his business.
Okay,
That's his
let me
business.
tell you one example. You're a poor farmer. You want to have a tractor, right?
Yeah.
So you go to the banks for investment.
I shouldn't go to the banks because they're
Because
criminals.
they have money. Because
Because
they
they're
have
exploiting our...
Oh, listen. Because they have money, you go to the banks.
Thank you. Inshallah. Okay, remember the projects in the future. You know, medical students become experts in science and really scientists, inshallah.
Okay, let's go back. You want to have a tractor that you can farm. So you go to the rich people. For
Yeah,
example,
say come to
bank,
me. I have enough money. I'll give you the tractor.
and then 20,000, and he say, give me 25,000 in return. That's the cost for the investment. You buy your tractor, you farm, and you make a lot of profit of it. Way enough to pay the bank back. So what's the problem?
No, I'm not the bank. So you came to me, I was rich, had enough money, you're my friend, I gave it to you. I don't become jealous because you became profitable after that and you became wealthy, because if I become jealous of you, then I still have a problem.
It's just
So initially I had, remember, if I want money back extra, I'm greedy. If I become jealous of your profits, then I become jealousy. So all the traits that I'm demonstrating are bad traits of a human. A good traits of a human is what Allah, our God, wants us to be. Get rid of our bad traits. Be kind, be generous, be compassionate, be merciful, be forgiving. But what you're saying is,
the world is not working like this. Even the production of commodities is an investment. It's taking profit from the people. It's working. Of course. What is the problem?
that's your model. I am saying your model is worse. Your model today is not worse.
Money doesn't come
The
out
model
of
of
your
look, the biggest killer in any country's GDP or their wealth and so on is the usury and interest. Whole country is enslaved by IMF. Whole country.
Interest is within the simple production of commodities. Since,
I have a better solution.
interest
Interest free.
is the profit. Without profit, there is no production.
It's not about doesn't work. It did work and it will work.
Without
So when
interest,
Okay,
there is no profit.
Okay.
Without profit, there is no incentive to produce. So the prices and the profit, there is not a conspiration. There is not.
No, mathematically, accounting-wise, you can put the output, income without interest. Interest is the
interest is the cost of opportunity for the investment.
accountant.
I'm an accountant.
Yeah, I'm an economist.
You're economist.
Good. So you know the language. Now talk.
Tell me.
And we enjoy your discussion.
Why the money I'm borrowing you, I can get more output without interest? Why interest has to be
Wouldn't have it in the first
compounded?
place.
The interest,
Why has to be compounded?
why have to be compound
Compounded
interest?
interest. If I don't put the interest, I invest the money, I make money over there, make profit from my investment, and from that investment, I distribute profit to the shareholders.
Because there is always a risk also involved. If you give somebody the money, there's also a risk that he will lose the money. He just won't spend it on good things and you lose the money.
I mean, you have
Risk, yes, there's a risk factor, but risk does not eliminate the interest.
no, but I mean, you have
Risk, interest does not eliminate the risk.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Real interest
but
is there.
it's
No,
always
hear
a
me out.
risk.
The interest is there to make more money out of the misery of the people.
No,
But it's
I
not
mean,
the misery.
no.
It's not the
That's the
misery.
misery.
No, the interest is necessary because if you produce for yourself, that is going to give you a profit.
No,
What no? You produce because of profit. You produce for profit.
you didn't
get
get
the profit
my
and
point.
you
I
pay
said
the
to you,
interest.
But one
you
moment.
hear me out. Without interest, you can invest the money to the market. Look at the share market. I have 100,000 pounds. Simple example. I'm investing with Google. I'm investing with Apple. I'm investing with BP. BP, they extracted the oil in the cheap price, selling in the higher price. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Why do I have to, that money which I initially invested from the bank has to give me the...
Because you gave them money.
I have the
They
money.
use the money, they can use it to build
If
things.
you don't borrow the money, you have your own capital.
Yes.
In order to invest that money, why you compound that capital with the interest to lend the money?
Because
Answer
it's a
this.
cost of opportunity.
Yeah.
With your money, you can raise a business and then you are going to get a profit because
Yeah.
if there is no profit, there is no business.
Yeah.
So if I let you the money for you, obviously,
think
I'm
he's
going
not
to
getting
take
it. He's not getting
you
it.
some interest.
He's coming the risk element. Risk,
No, it's enough.
Not
Without
just the risk, not just
listen
the
to
risk.
this. Hear me out.
It's
I
a
have
cost of
100
opportunity.
He has the money, capital.
I have the capital.
He has the capital.
They build together something. Somebody has the idea, the other guy has the money.
Money.
Together they make a business.
I
Both
agree.
get money. Things out of
Yes.
it.
So there is no interest involved.
No, the other guys get rich
So
with
you
his
agree
company,
with me?
and the other pays him interest.
You took
for
the risk,
the
you have the capital, no interest involved. You make profit, you distribute the profit with the people.
Why is not interest? Yes,
That's an
Okay,
interest.
okay.
Sharing with the
You see,
people is an interest.
I can see that the
You're an economist. Don't say that ever again.
No. He can have his opinion.
Never say that.
Don't become
Interest and
personal.
profit is not the same thing.
That's fine, don't worry.
No, it's not the same profit. What is this?
Profit. Take it back. Don't say interest and profit.
Okay.
Profit
Come on, you experts
divided
in both
by
of your
investment,
professions.
what is?
Leave that
What
aside.
is the profit divided by the investment?
Hello, economist
It's the
and
rate of
accountant.
interest. It's the rate of
Okay.
profit.
Let's
What is
come
the
back.
rate of profit?
The example I gave.
Listen to this.
Listen. Look, both of you. The example I gave is a model that Islam provides of how the society can live without this greed
Islam
element
can say
involved.
a lot of things, but they are not able to wield it.
No, Islam
I can say no. We have to implant now the Soviets or the Socialist Republic.
What's your name?
But
What's your name?
Jordan.
Jordan, I'm Mansur. Islam was implemented and it was shown in practice in history where people, for example, look at how it changed the people. I want to give you one or two examples. When the prayer time came, you know Muslims pray 5 times a day. Welcome. How are you? You okay? Muslims pray throughout the day 5 times a day. So when they hear the call of prayer from the mosques, they go to the mosque to pray. That's how it's been in
You
Islam.
think the Muslim system is better?
Oh,
Then
please,
why
please.
their country aren't better?
I want to show you the example. Today, people are not following Islam. That's why we are in a mess like this. So when the call of prayer came, do you know what people did? The people with business, imagine they had gold and they're dealing with gold. At that time, they will just put a cloth over their commodities and they will go, leaving no one to look after. And they'll go to the mosque and they'll come back and they'll find it still in place. What made an Islamic civilization in a society where Muslims, non-Muslims living, where people can live their shop open without locking? Today, can you imagine a gold jewelry shop leaving the shop open and no one? Unimaginable. But yes, this is how the society molded the people's behavior, attitude, character, their particular framework of living, where people were, when they need for someone. Look, when Muslims went to Indonesia and Malaysia, merchants, no armies went there, and the whole country became Muslim eventually. You know how they became Muslims? It's like an example like I can cite. Someone doing business, and he said, look, if this cloth that you have, for example, this has a fault. This has a fault. Imagine it's 10 pounds per meter, but because of the fault, do it 7 pounds per meter.
Anyway,
So-
mate, we have to.
No, you can go. I want to give only this example to understand how Islam molded and changed the people.
But
2 minutes.
No,
2 minutes.
we have to go.
No problem.
We have no
Okay.
agree with you.
Take care.
It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure, Jordan, and nice meeting you. Nice talking to you. Take care. And study Islam, and you'll learn a bit more about our religion. How are you doing? Thank you. You okay?
Thank you, brother Mansur. I want you a zip. I'll take these as well. I don't know who's there. I'll sell them on eBay, don't worry. Time to go, yeah?